Good morning. Good morning. If I could have everyone's attention, please. Can you hear me? Hello? I'd like to call the House Income Tax Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee to order this morning. The first bill we have for presentation is House Bill 403 for Chairman Jaspers. Chairman Jaspers, if you'd present the bill. This is a hearing only. We'd have two hearings typically on our subcommittee bills, and this is just a hearing only. Chairman Jaspers.
Okay, thank you, committee. Thank you for hearing my bill. We just looked at this a moment ago. We have Bill 403 in room 403 this morning, and we thought that's pretty clever. And good luck. LC 432641 is what I'm working off of. Thank you for hearing my bill. This is the first time I've been in a Ways and Means Committee meeting, and all these years, Mr. Chairman, and found something I thought I could support and work with this year, and I hope you'll agree. Okay, what this bill does is provide a tax credit for homeowners for their expenses installing a geothermal heating and air conditioning system. Quickly, what geothermal is compared to our normal heat pump is that on our normal heat pumps, they're air driven. Whatever the air temperature is, that's what the machine is working with. Geothermal uses the soil or water temperature that's down deep in the soil. That temperature is average in Georgia 62 degrees. So what that does is allow the system to take the heating or cooling out of the water temperature, which is very different than air temperature, and it works very well. They place a loop of pipe in a drilled well down to the groundwater. It recirculates back to the home. It can be in a pond, and I'll tell you a little story about that in a second, to extract that heat in the winter and cooling in the summer. When I was doing all the EV study committees this summer, one thing I learned real quickly was that the amount of power we have in Georgia is limited, and the cost of it is when they have to buy it is on that demand. When it's the hottest days of the year, HVA systems have a hard time meeting the need to cool those homes because of the air temperatures, of course, hot. This will bring a 62-degree temperature coolant into the house, makes it a lot easier, reduce demand on the system. But in essence, why this is expensive, it involves drilling a well, installing a loop from the home to the well, and then the HVA system itself. It is more expensive. It really depends on the depth of the well, or if they're fortunate enough to have a pond, the size of the home, size of the system, and all that stuff. We're asking for a tax credit of 25% of the cost to install up to a $35,000 per dwelling. These systems can cost $30,000 to $50,000 depending on all those variables. What I have with me is Tucker Green. He's the executive director of the Georgia Heating and Air Conditioners Association, Contractors Association, and he will present the numbers side of this that we put in your packet the other day, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. If you'd like to come in and take a seat, share your testimony. Identify yourself, who you're with, please.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. I'm Tucker Green, Executive Director of the Conditioned Air Association of Georgia. We represent all the licensed professional contractors in our state, as well as most of the suppliers and manufacturers in the HVACR industry. I have two guests with me that I'll defer to give a couple brief comments. Steve Hurwitz with Intertech, as well as Austin Northcutt with Water Furnace Corporation. They are the two largest geothermal manufacturers in the country, and they are American-made products put together right here in the United States. As Chairman Jaspers noted, geothermal heating and air systems is the most energy-efficient way someone can heat or cool their home. It's significant savings on their energy bill. It also impacts lots of jobs. We project that it's about a threefold impact, because on an ordinary AC system, you're just going to have your traditional AC contractor. On a geothermal system, you're going to have, in most cases, an AC contractor, a water well contractor, and a loop contractor that are all involved in this project. Because you have all those folks involved, and because of the additional steps to install these loop systems, the potential of a well and things of that nature, they are much more costly. And so right now, in many cases, it's not affordable for middle-class families, and those are the folks that probably could use the biggest savings on their energy bills. So we hope with this tax credit, we can help allow more folks across Georgia in our communities utilize this technology that we view as the way of the future. For your knowledge, there is a federal tax credit on these systems at 30% currently, and several states have also went ahead and been proactive and put in state tax credits. Closest to us being South Carolina. They have our legislation is very similar to what they have in South Carolina. They have a 25% tax credit as well. In this legislation, we cap it at $35,000 per dwelling. In many cases, they would never get to the $35,000 because that would be, equivalent over roughly $125,000 system. In most cases, it's not. On average, an average geothermal system is about $50,000. Some advantages there, though: the life expectancy much more than an ordinary AC system. On average, the system internally inside the home ductwork, all that, the actual unit, lasts about 25 years. An ordinary system's lasting about 10 to 12 years right now, and the loop itself lasts about 100 years. So this is a long-term system, but the initial investment is significant. So we're happy to answer any questions. We provided some information to the committee. You'll see currently to date, there's roughly about 500 of these geothermal systems installed per year is what our current date is. We did go ahead and provide some projections if we do see increase with the tax credit of what we could be getting into. But currently, revenue on these systems is about around 7 million currently. So I'm happy to answer any questions about our economic impact, and if there's not any questions at the moment, I'd like. Yes, sir.
You do have a question, Chairman Stevens.
What is the South Carolina credit, and what is their cap?
So basically the same as ours, but they structure it just slightly different. So they cap at $35,000 as well, but they spread it over 10 years, $3,500 capped annually. What we did was we put it at 5 years and just a general $35,000. So they could take all 35 in year one, or they could spread the 35 over 5 years. So they have half the time, but we didn't put the annual $3,500 cap like they do in South Carolina.
Follow up. Whenever you drill a well, does it go into the Floridan aquifer or the Miocene aquifer, or does it matter?
So I guess you're talking probably in particular to your area as far as, I guess that would be dependent upon what could be permitted or not if they could drill into the, I know in certain, I think it's shaded zones in your area of certain zones they can drill into the Floridian, certain ones they cannot.
Got it.
So I think it would be, that would still hold true here in this case.
Thanks.
And this is a dollar for dollar tax credit, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And is it limited just to, you mentioned middle income homeowners? Is it limited just to homeowners, or is it applied to commercial as well?
It is just residential in this
Residential
bill.
only.
Yes, sir.
Have any other questions? Chairman Carson.
Thank you for bringing this. I just had two questions. One is in the presentation that you provided.
Yes, sir.
It's at the top. It says Georgia geothermal economic impact. The total cost average of a 4-ton system, again, we're talking residential, is anywhere from, in 2017 it was $35,000. Currently it's about $50,000. Correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
So 25% of that would be $12,500, right?
Yes, sir.
So why are we doing a $35,000 credit cap?
So in some instances, again, these systems, depends on the size of the home, just like with your ordinary system. There are in some cases where the systems are so large that you could get in, but that would be a minority of cases. Overwhelming cases are going to be on this average 50,000 threshold.
It's just hard to imagine a geothermal system or any HVAC system. Well, you wouldn't call it HVAC in this, but a heating and cooling system costing $140,000.
Yeah, it is,
which is the imputed cost of $35,000.
Yes, sir. It's very rare. It's very rare. But there are, we had a geothermal home on Sea Island, for example. We've had some next to the governor's mansion on West Paces Ferry. those size systems.
Those areas don't need a tax credit. but
No,
okay.
no, they don't, sir. No. But those that it would take a. You get what I'm saying, though. It would be a system that large where you would get
Okay.
into. Yes.
And second, follow up. You had mentioned there's savings. So can you describe the savings with regard to this?
Yeah, if I could, I'm going to divert to my folks that are with me because they track this data on their systems of what the savings are. But to my knowledge, it can be on average of 50 to 70% of an energy bill with these geothermal systems.
If that's the case, then why are we giving a tax credit? I'm just wondering why are we incentivizing something that may very well pay for itself?
Well, I think we're incentivizing the ability to install this technology to start with because many folks don't have the ability to do that currently. But I think it's also a benefit to Georgia with the impact to jobs, but also the overall savings on our power grid that helps the state as a whole.
Just a quick follow-up question, just getting back to the tax part. It's a dollar for dollar tax credit here, and this Chairman Carson, I'm assuming a homeowner can't deduct a piece of equipment now on their state or federal income taxes, just not for residential. So this would be a mechanism by which they could enjoy tax relief.
Correct.
And in fact, have a subsidy for the purchase of this equipment.
Yes, sir.
Is any further questions?
If not,
I'm sorry. Chairman Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned the power grid and the effect on it. Do the geothermal systems, I know the most challenging time, and maybe your next speakers are going to talk to this, but the most challenging time for the grid is those serious air conditioning days and occasionally the serious cold weather days. How does this system compare to, say, a heat pump that's having to deal with those? And once again, this may be an engineering question, but is one of the goals that we're taking some of that demand off of our peak days?
that's exactly right. So, and they can probably speak to it better than I can. But the geothermal systems, when it is 5 degrees outside in the winter, or when it's 90, 95, 100 degrees in the summer, that system, when you have that ordinary AC system in your flower bed outside your house, that impacts that temperature and its ability to cool or to heat. That doesn't happen with the geothermal system. It maintains that core temperature of the earth 365 days a year. So it's never having to work overtime to heat more or to cool more.
Well, I do know that Georgia Power, Mr. Chairman, Georgia Power and all our EMCs have to plan for those peak days so we don't end up like some other states with brownouts and blackouts and rolling things. So that's an interesting point about it, that it's still off the system on our peak need days, which
Yes, sir.
I can see why. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And next we need to hear from which gentleman? From Austin Northcutt?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And if you'd, for the audience, tell us who you are and who you represent.
My name's Austin Northcutt. I'm with Water Furnace International. I'm based out of Lawrenceville, Georgia, and our company's based out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. Our products, and we are a geothermal heat pump manufacturer, and our products are made in America. The geothermal tax credit, to speak a little bit about the impact on the grid and to take that a step further to EMCs buying power. In the state of South Carolina, there's a 25% tax credit, as Tucker mentioned, on top of the 30% federal. Blue Ridge Electric, which is a small electric co-op near Clemson, South Carolina, they actually went a step further, and they're giving $1,600 per ton as a rebate because of geothermal's impact on their grid or on buying power, so they can negate some infrastructure costs down the road. And they have also allowed financing on the bill for homeowners because they see such a benefit of geothermal on them buying power from Duke Power, in that case, in South Carolina.
Do we have any questions? No more. Yes. Chairman Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you bringing this forward, Mr. Chair. Are are your statistics retrofit or are they brand new construction or a
Good que-
combination?
Good question. It's a combination of both. The most logical times to invest in geothermal and what we see, especially now, without a state tax credit, would either be when your system goes out and you're looking at replacement, it's presented as an option by heating and air contractors, or during new construction, especially being able to finance it on their mortgage, which is a lot of times necessary right now.
Okay. May I follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
So when we're doing these geothermal, is there a holdback? I mean, is there a problem with certain residential areas? Is it, what are the, like if my AC goes out, I've got a heat pump and I want to replace it and I live in a high density area, how does it work? Does it work okay? Can you figure this out?
So are you asking, like, let's say around Atlanta where it's a small lot in a neighborhood?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a few different loop applications. The most common we see here in Georgia is actually a closed loop system. It does require drilling. A closed loop system would mean that we're not drawing water from a well, but we do have a well driller come out and put pipe into the ground along with a looping contractor. That closed loop system, it's moving the same water over and over again through that loop. Those systems, if it's on a small lot, it has to be vertical because they don't have enough acreage to go horizontally across a yard. Now, if it was in a farm in South Georgia, we could go down 6 feet, dig a 400 or 500 foot or a few series of 400 or 500 foot trenches across their property, and that would be a cheaper loop install. For companies, or excuse me, for homeowners with less property, though, it does need to be a vertical drill, which is actually more costly.
I got one more if I can, if I may.
All right, one more, final one.
Okay, final question. So when you're doing the loop, when you're not doing a closed loop system, is there any damage to the water that's, I'm assuming you're just shooting it back in the aquifer for a non-closed loop system? Is there, what's the output?
So in the state of Georgia, we're actually not allowed to inject back into the aquifer. For that reason, we have a very small percentage of what we call open loop. The reason being is we would need to get rid of that water somewhere. Most commonly, when we would do an open loop, would be like into a pond or stream on the property, but it is more rare in Georgia just because of that fact.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chairman Stevens.
You know, I have to change my air conditioners about once every 5, at the very best, 10 years. And every time they change Freon, you've got to change the inside unit as well, which is incredibly expensive. How long will these systems last?
So AHRI actually estimates that geothermal heat pumps last 22 to 28 years, which they say 10 to 15 is more typical of air source systems. So you are getting roughly double the lifespan, at least 1.5 times the lifespan on these versus an air source system.
Thank you.
So, excuse me, Chairman House.
You get a permit to do this wells, because I've drilled a well before and I had to get a permit. You said
Yes, ma'am.
you have to get a permit to do it.
Yes, ma'am. So in the state of Georgia, I think there's a few different permits that would need to be pulled. It would depend on the type of loop, but in general, yes, ma'am.
All right, we have one more witness that wanted to present, Steve Hurwitz. So, Steve, if you come forward and.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm Steve Hurwitz. I work with Enertech Global in USA. We're headquartered in Greenville, Illinois. Our factory is in Mitchell, South Dakota, home of the Corn Palace. I never knew there was a Corn Palace, but there really is, and it's got murals of corn. We manufacture geothermal heat pumps as well. My role with Enertech is a little bit different. I work primarily with builders, developers, architects, So I'm looking at new communities, subdivisions, anywhere from 30 homes to 3,000 homes, which is a long gestation period. And I can tell you, particularly as we get to the middle income, I can use the word attainable or affordable or workforce or anything in between. I think somebody mentioned that if you're living on West Paces Ferry, you might not need the tax credit, but you can burn out that $35,000 if you have 9 systems in your house. You've probably got a 10,000 square foot house. But what I find with builders, they want to offer it, and developers do as well. But if anybody's been in the building or developing business, it's really about first cost. And so my job is really to do analysis and metrics and logistics for these developers to see how they can mitigate some of that for geothermal so we can get it in. Because if you think about it, it's a little like McDonald's. One soft drink is not a big deal, a penny here or there. But when you get millions sold, then there's some value to it. It's the same thing with geothermal. The idea of this thing, I think, eventually is that it would actually become a better choice for heating and air conditioning than just an air source heat pump or a gas furnace and electric air conditioner. So if we could start to mitigate some of those first costs and make it more affordable to get in, I think someone asked the question about what's the monthly utility bill. Imagine waking up every morning and half of your energy bill is already paid forever. And that's really what geothermal does. You got to get through this first step, and we keep the major part of it is this loop, because that's an additional piece. The heat pumps are a little bit more, but not that much now, because a heat pump, in terms of its efficiency, is double, could triple, or even quadruple that of an air source heat pump, a geothermal heat pump. So it's not that much more expensive, and it's much more efficient, but it's the loop piece that costs the money. So this would help mitigate that. And as we get more of them in, I think these loops would become less and less expensive. The units would become less and less expensive. And people who can go into attainable housing could then afford to stay in it because their utility bills are not. I have a lot of experience on what a lot of builders do, and I understand it. It's a 13 SEER gas furnace and electric air conditioner. There's nothing wrong with it. That's the lowest allowable by law. But you're talking about quadruple that with geothermal. So for somebody paying a monthly utility bill, it's the difference between $400 and $100. It's a lot of money. That's my pitch. That's my pitch to builders.
Well, thank you, Mr. Hurwitz.
You're welcome.
We're bumping into some time
Sure.
deadlines now. You'll be around the meeting right after, right?
Absolutely.
So
Thank
if
you for your
either one
time.
of our witnesses will hang around in case any of the members have a question, I guess, are there any follow-up questions? Because this is a hearing only. Very interesting concept.
Thank you.
But
Chairman, excuse me, I'd just like to add one personal comment. I've had 2 experiences with these in my life. My neighbor has one, and she lives on the side of a mountain, and when she built her new house, she had such problems with getting gas delivered in the wintertime. Miss Judy put one of these in. I was shocked when she did it. But I asked her the other day, knowing I was going to do this, and my power bill in August was $270. Hers was $118. And, you know, she is a widow living up on the mountains, he has a generator, likes the consistency of it, and she's very environmentally aware. And so Miss Judy likes the idea that she's lowering the grid and all that kind of good stuff.
I think there's some members of the committee that might have those systems installed as well. I don't, but I think a couple might. But it's good testimony. Any follow-up questions for the chairman? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, it's hearing only and very fascinating concept. Next, we're going to take up House Bill 482. Who's presenting that bill? Oh, Representative Saines, if you'd like to present House Bill 482. And for those of you in the, this is a department bill. If anybody's online, you can just refresh your button and the bill will pull up. Chairman Sains, we apologize. This bill just got added literally a minute ago to the. I apologize. I thought someone had made you aware.
This is Department of Revenue jobs tax credit bill. The jobs tax credit, when the legislature passed it, the language in it was to the point where some 501c3 nonprofits have created jobs, which is a great thing, but have utilized the job tax credit, which arguably wasn't the legislature's intent to do so. They already don't pay income tax on their revenue, of course, because they're a non-for-profit corporation. So this bill seeks to clear that up. Currently, the Department of Revenue has defined it for-profit entities only, but there are some litigation issues with that. Austin with Department of Revenue could answer more detailed questions if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman.
In essence, it's a cleanup bill just to prevent unintended consequences being taken advantage of by nonprofits
Yes,
for
sir.
tax credits. It was never the intention of the legislature. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir.
This bill is prepared to move forward. So, but if there are any questions, Representative Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. What would be has there been a large group of nonprofits taking advantage of this, and why wouldn't we want to support organizations that are doing the work that the government isn't really getting into? And there's some very valuable organizations out there working really hard, and so why wouldn't we want them to be able to take advantage of this?
I appreciate that question, and I was pretty. I've worked with plenty of nonprofits on a professional capacity, and I had that same question. The main part of it is making sure that we're treating corporations for a nonprofit similarly, and the reason we provide the job tax credit is because they're deriving, the state is deriving that income source from the different method of taxing the corporate income of it, and that just isn't there for a nonprofit. So although they're doing good work, this is not the format, I would argue, to reward them for that good work.
Point of clarity, this is the first hearing only. There will be a subsequent hearing. Representative Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to make sure that we're not we're aware of how the corporate tax structure is set up. I mean, I don't feel like that we're really talking apples to apples here when you have corporations their goal would be to reduce their tax liability as much as they can. So it's not like corporations are paying way too much taxes right now. And so I think that I'd be interested to hear from the Department of Revenue how this has been enacted and why we would be wanting to make a change like this, please. Thank you.
Yes, sir. So for years following the general...
Please, Austin.
Oh, yes. Austin Gibbons, Director of External Affairs and Communications for Department of Revenue. So for years we denied refund claims related to this because we felt it was not the General Assembly's intent. In 2009, when Governor Perdue and Chairman O'Neill passed House Bill 438 for the Quality Jobs Tax Credit, we felt it was not the legislative intent for nonprofits to be claiming that credit. There was litigation, and now we are looking at north of $100 million in refund claims outstanding. So it is a hefty cost to the state, and we're just looking to clarify the legislative intent that nonprofits can claim it for unrelated business income. So, if I'm a hospital with a gift shop and that gift shop pays 110% of the county average wage, then I can claim it for that job. But as far as the nonprofit operations aspects of my work, I cannot claim this credit. That is the legislative intent we're seeking to clear up.
Chairman Houston.
How can a nonprofit, I didn't realize they pay taxes. How do they get tax credits if they don't pay taxes?
So they are...
I don't understand.
They are looking to apply this against payroll withholding.
Well, that's just, they don't pay the taxes, so they shouldn't get any money back. I don't understand.
Chairman Stevens.
going to move, but since this is a first hearing.
First hearing. Any additional questions for Chairman Carpenter?
So would it be safe to say if the nonprofit is filing for these, then it basically would be filed against their SUDA account, which in turn would have to be supplemented by all the other businesses in the state to keep that fund afloat? Is that a fair assumption?
I'll have to get with our experts to check in on that, but our intent is to clarify the legislative intent from 2009 that it can be claimed for unrelated business income, but not for the nonprofit operations part of the job, where the General Assembly's intent has been historically to exempt nonprofits from state income tax altogether.
All right, one more question for you, Representative Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what is the comparable figure? You mentioned $100 million in nonprofits. What's the comparable corporate figure to that?
I would have to get those numbers and follow up with you on that.
Let's do that, because that to me is a very significant. The $100 million that you threw out is very significant, but I want to know what the corporate group has, what their advantages have been relative to that figure, and I think that that's important for us all to before we can make some decisions.
And I would note, Representative Fry, like Austin said, we give non-for-profit corporations 100% of liability reduction in their corporate income tax because we don't collect that from them. So I'd also highlight that figure as well.
I think that's a good way to sum it up. This is a hearing only, and we're again bumping in another time limit. Thank you for presenting the bill for this first hearing. We'll get the second hearing scheduled. You'll have a little bit of notice for the next one. So the Income Tax Subcommittee of the Ways and Means Committee is going to stand adjourned, and I'll turn it over to who?
Okay, folks, we're going to call to order the House Ways and Means Ad Valorem Subcommittee meeting. We're going to go straight into House Resolution 96. Chairman Noel Williams. Chairman Williams.
Thank you, sir. I'm bringing before the committee today H.R. House Resolution 96, which is LC 432595. This is simply a bill that is going to help our farmers, tree farmers per se. Currently, standing timber is the only agriculture crop taxed for ad valorem purposes. Pecan trees, peach trees, blueberry bushes, etc. are not taxed. And what this would do would be just to treat standing timber, equally with other commodities. As you know, LC 432595 is a constitutional amendment which will require a 2/3 vote in the House and the Senate. In addition, this measure would require a statewide referendum in 2024 and will become effective in January of 2025 if it passed. To hit a couple of highlights in this bill, lines 10 through 19 quote current law that standing timber shall be assessed only once following its harvest or sale at 2 1/2 times the assessed value fixed by law. This means the assessment shall be 100% of its fair market value. All other assessments of real property are at 40%. Lines 20 through 24, after January 1, 2025, assuming the legislation has passed the House and Senate by a 2/3 majority and a statewide referendum, standing timber will be assessed following its harvest of sale at the same percentage of value fixed by law for other real property. All assessments of real property are at 40%. Basically, standing timber is the same as any other real property. Lines 25 through 35, after January of 2026, the General Assembly shall annually appropriate to each county, municipality, or school district for any losses of property tax revenue experienced during the preceding tax year due to the change in manner of assessment on standing timber from 100% to 40%. For the first 3% of revenue reduction, an amount equal to 50% of such revenue reduction will be appropriated to the local governments. For any amounts of revenue reduction of ad valorem tax in excess of 3%, 100% of the revenue reduction on standing timber will be appropriated to the local governments. Someone asked me about a fiscal note in the previous meeting, and we determined that the state's total reimbursement to the local governments would be $10.9 million. And like I said, as you know, this would take a constitutional amendment, and then it would come a vote. But it'd be helping the farmers, keep them on equal playing field with cotton, corn, pecans, what have you.
I understand. That amount per year, is that an amount for a duration or annual amount per year?
This annual amount per year.
Okay. Any questions from the committee?
And this is the same bill that we have passed out of the House for the past few. It was the Sam Watson bill, and somehow it got bogged down across the hall.
There might be somebody in the Senate that can help with that.
Maybe so.
Well, very good. We don't have any speakers signed up for this, correct? Any additional discussion from the committee? I have a motion to pass from Chairman Stevens, or was it Representative Bowden? Okay. From Chairman Stevens, second. Is there a second?
Chairman Houston.
Chairman Houston, Chair Lady Houston. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Bill moves on to full committee. All right. And we're going to have HB 264. HB 264. Vance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Members of the committee. You have on your computer a substitute LC 432637S. This is we have a timeline when people appeal their taxes, a 180-day period, and this is trying to adjust and make it more equitable for each party that's involved, like the tax assessors, the clerks of court, so that everybody has the proper time, because the beneficiary to get this done in a timely manner is the taxpayer. So the 180-day time frame stays the same. It also adds language on line 74 and 75 where you can actually transfer information electronically, so that's good. And there was a meeting that was held about 10-12 days ago here at the Capitol between several groups, and they said they could live with this language, so I'm just trying to help the taxpayer get his appeal done in a timely manner. I'll try to answer any questions.
Any questions regarding House Bill 264? We've got a question here from the committee.
Thank you.
Representative Prince?
Yes.
Chairman Prince?
Has it been changed? Are we staying at 180 or we're cutting it to 90?
No, we're staying at 180, but we're giving each party 90 days to do their part, one party, and 90 days for the other party.
Okay. Chairman Carpenter waves. Chairman Knight, will you hit your button?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I also have Mike's here in case we need to say anything in case you get into the.
All right, got it. Chairman Knight.
Question on the I'm trying to look at that line. Basically, we're saying such notice shall be sent by first-class mail, it's 74, or email. I just want to make sure it's a situation where it's chosen by the appellate, in other words, the taxpayer, because I know some folks may want to make sure that email may not be the best thing, especially folks who don't do email or elderly folks.
Right.
So,
yeah, line 74, where it's sent by first-class mail or email if the taxpayer authorizes it to be sent electronically. That was what caused the substitute to be written. That clearer language is not in the original, but now it's in the sub.
Yeah.
Any other questions from the committee? Or David, did you have a further
No,
follow-up?
good.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? I did not have anybody signed up to speak. Was there anybody that wanted to speak in regard to the bill? Vance, you mentioned one person.
What?
I believe that Representative Vance has perfectly explained the bill.
Okay.
We do support it and have worked with ACCG, tax assessors, and all of the parties that he referenced earlier.
I understand. And just anybody else? This is a first hearing only.
Right.
So,
All right.
all right. Thank you. Thank you,
Mr.
Representative Smith. We're going to move on to House Bill 290. Representative Scoggins, there you are. Hey, Mitchell. House Bill 290. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. House Bill 290 is a bill that was voted on in the House last year and passed 161 to nothing. But it's the same. I think it was 1280 was the House bill last year. This is LC 432533, House Bill 290. This bill would amend Title 48 relating to municipalities and taxation, as far as the tax commissioners being able to contract with municipalities to collect taxes for them. A municipality may contract with the tax commissioner of said county for the collection of property taxes. Contracts must be three-party contracts, which would be between the tax commissioner and municipality and the county governing authority. The contract for service is allowed under this section shall not exceed 50% of the minimum salary of the tax commissioner. This act would become effective upon the signature of the governor and would not hinder or abrupt any contract that's presently between the tax commissioner and the municipality. And have a couple of speakers. I think we have Kevin Payne, who is the tax commissioner over in Floyd County. We also have a letter of recommendation by the GATO, which would be the Georgia Association of Tax Officials. And I'm open for any questions.
Thank you for that. Any questions for Representative Scoggins? No questions? Okay. Do have a couple of speakers. If you can come up to the microphone, Kevin Payne.
Good morning. I'm Kevin Payne. I'm the Floyd County Tax Commissioner, and I'm here on behalf of the Georgia Association of Tax Officials, representing the 159 elected tax commissioners in the state. And we are in support of this bill. I appreciate Representative Scoggins bringing this bill. This is the result of about 2 years of work and a lot of compromise between the tax commissioners, ACCG, GMA, and the legislators to come up with a plan to replace what is existing law, which is really kind of a confusing three-tiered system with how municipalities, counties, and tax commissioners contract to collect municipal taxes. And so this would create a statewide standard system that would cap the compensation for the tax commissioner. We understand that has been under quite a bit of scrutiny and controversy in the past in certain counties, and we believe this should take care of that, and we'd like to put that issue to bed, and we very much support this bill. So.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Payne? We have one question over here. Is that
Right.
Representative Fry? Oh, I'm
Seven.
sorry, Chairman, Leader Williamson.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So my only question is line 40 where it says, or 39 says, the contractual service allowed under this subsection shall not for any year exceed 50% of the minimum annual salary to be paid to such tax commissioner by the county. Is that just straight salary, or does it include benefits as well?
That would be the minimum statutory salary, which is set by law.
Okay, it
And,
doesn't have anything to do with any cars provided or health insurance, retirement plan, or anything like that?
No,
just
sir.
limited
It
to
would be the
salary.
statutory minimum, and there has never been a cap, and there's not currently a cap in the law. So.
Okay.
And that would be based on population under the state minimum salary bill now that we have for all constitutional officers. It's set on salary, so it would be based on that minimum salary.
And to follow up question, if I may, so just where I'll have clarity on, I support it, but does the tax commissioner receive this as additional compensation, or does it go into the tax commissioner's budget to pay for these services?
It's similar to other constitutional officers. I know the probate judges, they get paid for handling vital records in the county. This would be similar to what the probate judges get. They would contract with the county and the municipality, and that would go directly to that tax commissioner. And what they do with it, I don't know. You know, I've heard stories where some divide it up among their office staff. Some of it goes to pay for the for extra duties for the tax commissioner. Anything above that 50% would go back into the county government.
It seems to me to be a follow-up question. It seems to me to be the reverse, that because it has to be some additional expenses to incur the responsibility for sending out tax bills on behalf of municipalities, be it inbound phone calls. You know, people won't know what this garbage fee or street light fee or what is on the bill. It's got to increase some of the responsibilities of the staff. It seems to me that it'd have to be a calculation how much more service would have to be provided by the whole office before any of it flowed back to the individual tax commissioner's paycheck.
So this is a three-way contract, and
Right.
so under this bill for the first time, all the money does have to go from the city to the county, and then the county, if there is any money going to the tax commissioner, would pay the tax commissioners through the regular payroll. Of course, the county doesn't have a cap, so the county can charge whatever they would like, and obviously that could help with compensation as well. I would just tell you, I personally collect for the city of Rome, and I keep a third of that money, I pay taxes on a third of the money, I give a third of the money back to the staff. Now, that's not set in my contract, that's just what I do. I know a lot of tax commissioners do the same thing.
Thank you for answering the question.
Okay, I think Chairman Carpenter.
Yeah, and I think you've pretty well touched on it, but I just want to make sure it's clear in my cloudy mind. You contract with the city. It is not set on 50% of his if this is the tax commissioner. Sorry, Scoggins. It's not, your contract with the city is not based upon 50% of his wages. It's literally saying if I charge the city $1 million, he can only get, if he makes $200,000, he can only get $100,000 of that $1 million. But that contract on the actual services is negotiated between you and the city.
That's right, and the county.
Yeah, I'm saying that you're the county, right? So you and the city make that negotiation.
That's right.
And you're just making sure only half of what he's already making can trickle down to him.
That is the maximum that a tax commissioner could get, that's right.
Okay, but you could theoretically, the county itself could compensate the staff. He wouldn't necessarily be required to compensate his staff out of his half.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions from the committee? Your light's still blinking there,
I don't
Casey.
know how to make it stop. I'm
Okay. I understand. No worries. I think we have another speaker, Dante Handel from ACCG. That microphone, thank you.
Morning, everyone. My name is Dante Handel with ACCG, and just want to come up and express our support for the bill.
Well, that was easy. Any further questions from the committee? This is a hearing only at this time. I don't have any other speakers. No more speakers on House Bill 290. All right. Oh, we do have one more. I don't have you on the list, so could you state your name real quick?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Ryan Bowersucks with the Georgia Municipal Association. Just want to round out the trifecta and say we also support the bill as well. So thank you very much.
Very good. Very good. Simple as well. All right. No more speakers. Ad valorem tax subcommittee is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. Well, I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm wanting to move to House rules. Sorry. House Bill 331. I apologize. The esteemed Representative Anderson, I'm sorry.
Well, I do appreciate that, and I appreciate you catching that real quick, because this is the bill I've been looking for since day one when I got here. It's an opportunity to repeal some obsolete code. House Bill 331 does one thing. It does it very simply, and that is to repeal a code section related to our tax commissioners. 48-5-140 simply, as it is currently in code, gives the county commission the authority to suspend and appoint an interim tax commissioner if they fail to provide certain reports and documentation that are not explicitly mentioned in code as to what the content of those should be. This code section is a holdover from when the counties were originally created in the state of Georgia, and there was a single, what was at that time referred to as an ordinary, who was a representative of the state, designed to oversee the governmental functions of the counties. And in the early 1900s, and then later in the later 1900s, the verbiage was changed from the county ordinary to cover the county commission, which was really developed a slightly different role from the original intent of the ordinaries. When it did that, the code was, in 92, it was also softened a little to lessen the reporting requirements from twice a year to once a year. However, this is granting basically judicial authority to the county commission and granting them oversight over a constitutional officer. I contend that there are 5 different